Okay, I know, it's a cliche. A Gen Xer ripping on the modern generation's culture. But I still think I'm kinda hip to the jive. I'm down with the lingo, you know? So when Blumhouse releases a movie about a modern kid going back to the era I grew up in order to stop a killer, I hope I can relate to something in the movie. Surely I can relate to something, right? Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. Totally Killer is new streaming on Amazon Prime. It's directed by Nahnatchka and written by David Matalon, Sasha Perl-Raver, and Jen D'Angelo. 35 years after the Sweet 16 killer murdered 3 teenage girls, the town uses this infamy for guided tours, souvenirs, and other ways to profit off of the tragedy. The sole survivor, Pam, played by Julie Bowen, is very overprotective of her teenage daughter, Jamie, played by Kiernan Shipka, who just wants to be a normal kid. But when the Sweet 16 killer strikes again, this time very close to home for Jamie, she becomes focused on finding the killer, and Jamie and her best friend Amelia, played by Kelsey Mawema, develop a time machine for their science class. Yeah, I know, I'll get to that. And attempt to go back in time to 1987 to catch the killer in the past so he can't go on to murder in Jamie's present. Remarkably, the time machine works, but it's destroyed in the process, leaving Jamie caught in 1987. And while Amelia works to fix the time machine in the present, Jamie works to stop the killer in the past. I think I just hurt myself trying to write that synopsis. I'm not sure how or why, but lately Blumhouse has churned out one absolutely horrendous project after another. Once the company was lauded for reinvigorating the horror genre, but lately it feels like they are determined to destroy it. While they've managed to massacre such franchises as Halloween, The Exorcist, and Black Christmas, they've also pushed out horror versions of classic films like Groundhog's Day with Happy Death Day, Freaky Friday with Freaky, and now Back to the Future with Totally Killer. Recently, a lot of lower budget film houses have come under fire for redoing classic fairy tales as horror films, but for some reason Blumhouse seems to get a pass for doing the same thing with CW stars and more of a budget. There's a rumor that Blumhouse has its sights set on the Friday the 13th franchise. No. It's a bad Blumhouse. Don't you do it. No. Okay, back to Totally Killer. Now, time travel is not a subject I really am a fan of. As soon as someone introduces the concept, my brain starts to itch, and I start thinking about something else, like having a goat as a pet someday. It's an overused, misused, and often misunderstood concept that top scientists can't even figure out, but for some reason, every hack in Hollywood seems to think they can wing it because they saw Back to the Future as a kid. Now, Back to the Future aside, I hate time travel stories. So watching this movie was an uphill battle from the get-go. But hey, I decided to chug on. Maybe Totally Killer could redeem itself with its charm, comedy, and horror. I can suspend a whole hell of a lot of disbelief. I can understand that an elderly scientist recluse who has been experimenting with a time machine for decades may be able to construct a ramshackle time machine out of a DeLorean. Maybe because the movie around this concept was so good, with likable characters, exciting sequences, and sharp comedy. Unfortunately, Totally Killer has none of that. I'm supposed to believe a high school kid is able to whittle together a time machine for some fucking science fair. Really? I understand that having an older doc character explaining time travel to our teenage star would be some form of mansplaining. But for some reason it seemed like a feasible idea for the writers to have a teen know how to bend space and time because they didn't want to have too many old people in the story telling the younger kids what to do, I guess. Later, the same Brainiac explains the Mandela effect to an older man because, again, only the science gal could have the capability to understand what that concept was. Again, I guess if the tables were turned and the guys explained the Mandela effect to the teen, it would be mansplaining again. But hey, this is just a means to get Jamie back to the 80s, and that's where all the nostalgic fun starts, right? Well, that plan really makes no sense at all either. Why not just go back in time a few days to stop the latest murder? I understand Jamie might be such a good person that she wants to save all of the murders, but honestly, the character we saw at the beginning of this movie really doesn't care about anyone but herself, and after the tragedy, she doesn't seem to be that altruistic either. But again, the concept that all of the hoops are jumped through to get to is the 80s. So despite the fact that the reasons, the hows, and the whys aren't really addressed by the writers, we've got to get there. And why do we have to get there? Well, the point of Totally Killer is not to go back to the 80s for that warm feeling of nostalgia. In Back to the Future, Marty McFly went back and was shocked to see that his parents in the past were actually a whole hell of a lot like his peers in the present. It was a concept that sort of brought generations together, and there was an underlying theme of humanizing the past that made the Back to the Future series one that lasted the test of time. Totally Killer is the exact opposite. If you want to see a teenager judge, correct, and make fun of everything and everyone around her, then Totally Killer is going to be your jam. Jamie is absolutely unlikable, despite the fact that Kiernan Shipka is an extremely talented and charismatic actress. But not even she can elevate this vacant and vapid material. She screams unwanted touch when someone pushes her. She notes how homophobic 80s slang was. She corrects people for fat shaming. She puts down 80s weed for being so skanky and, well, okay, 80s weed was pretty skanky, so I'll give her that one. But the entire movie revolves around affirming Jamie as the better person who knows more than everyone else around her. It would be one thing if Totally Killer was self-aware enough to see how annoying all of Jamie's comments are. There is a chance for the film to support the message that today's society needs to lighten the fuck up and unclench for a minute. But while the 80s teens make fun of Jamie, she's never placed in the position of being wrong. She's the one who has all the answers. And though she is the star and should have some type of emotional arc, she already has everything she needs to protect herself, fix the problems she's facing, and no matter what, never ever look inward and make any changes to herself so she can learn some kind of lesson from all this. Instead, Jamie is the moral teacher of everyone else throughout the entire movie. Look, I'm not some backwards hater. I'm all for more sensitivity and more consideration for other people, as well as making movies with characters with modern mentalities. I'm as progressive as the next guy, I think, and of course, I'm always trying to be a little bit better than I was before. And if I want to be kind, I guess I could just say this movie was not made for me. But screw that. Totally Killer has no self-awareness at all. It's a total mess. It misses the point of the movie it tries to rip off and goes for the easy laugh every time. Jamie slips and says mom to her mother when she's a teen, and to cover it up, she shifts to saying mamacita. But going by the moral high ground Jamie takes throughout the film, isn't that cultural appropriation? For shame.
How dare you?
The real shame is that not only is that joke not funny, but the same unfunny joke is used twice in the fucking movie. How about the mystery? Well, it's as convoluted as the explanation of time travel, and of course, no clues are dropped until about 10 minutes before the reveal, so there's no way to figure out the mystery or real reason to pay attention to the story enough to want to try. Is there blood? A little. While the Sweet 16 killer is supposed to stab his victims 16 times, the amount of blood and violence in the movie is at a bare minimum. Is it scary? Not a bit. I don't know why these Blumhouse movies think that a big cartoon mask is scary, but it isn't. The baby mask in Happy Death Day? Lame. And so is this Johnny Bravo-like mask in this one. There isn't a moment in this movie that amplifies tension or utilizes an ounce of suspense. Shit just happens, and Jamie just comments on it. The scariest thing about Totally Killer is that I know there's a whole generation of kids who will watch this and relate to the main character. So yeah, I guess I am that old guy yelling at the clouds. But I'd rather be that guy than anyone in front of or behind the camera in this morally skewed, narratively remedial, and scientifically dumb movie. There's an excellent movie called The Final Girls that this film rips off completely. It contains all of the heart, insight, comedy, and scares Totally Killer lacks. See The Final Girls instead of Totally Killer. That's the one that deserves the attention.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed. Live the life that you are meant to be. Live inside